Top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Public Eye with the Open Mind. I'm Ronnie Thwaites on Bridge 99 FM. Today's Wednesday. It's October the 6th. It's the first Wednesday in the new month of October, the 10th of the year. Here on the Public Eye, we bring you the issues straight up. No slander, no gossip, just facts. So tune in every Wednesday from 11 to 1 as we explore social problems with an open mind and seek to find the solutions. World Teachers' Day was celebrated yesterday. You know, education is an issue that's very close to my heart. I served as an education minister for 4 years, and I am anxious that in our show today, we'll be extending the conversation around education by speaking with the Senior Director of Professional Development at the Jamaica Teaching Council. I wonder if they recognize how crucial that institution is to the educational regeneration, which is critical to everything else, you know. Yeah? So join us to talk with Mrs. Allison Solomon, Mrs. Ingrid Peart-Wilmot, and Diaspora member and JTC stakeholder, Ms. Shirnett Bailey. Hello. The Diaspora offers millions of dollars worth of assistance, cash and kind, yes, to the Jamaican education system. We rate them. That is why we are featuring them on the Bridge on the Public Eye today. We'll discuss the role of the Jamaica Teaching Council in leading teachers and how they plan to aid in education recovery in the Jamaican post-pandemic. Hey, things dread, you know. Yeah. The fact that the students haven't been vaccinated and run out of the Pfizer vaccine is affecting the return to face-to-face learning. And hold on now, we know everybody mean well and they're trying hard, you know, but they not learn the way they are supposed to. Only very few can manage on this virtual learning platform, despite all of the tablets and all of the efforts that you contribute to so much. And we're not cussing anybody. We rate what the ministry is doing, what the teachers are doing, what the parents are trying with, but it still is not enough. We need to get the children back to school. So that's what we're going to discuss, how we comport the teachers, how they adjust themselves, what's really needed, given the fact that realistically we've lost 1.5 years of school. And in the second hour of our program, at 10 minutes after 12 or so, to be an hour later, leading financial analyst, editor, and radio broadcaster Ralston Hyman joins us for a discussion about Jamaica's economic outlook. I feel that people in the diaspora really need to get a figure as to how our economies stay, what they can invest in with what confidence, and really some of the things that we're hearing, upgrade of our rating by the financial monitors, the supplementary budget, what the Bank of Jamaica is saying, what the stock market is doing. Most important, what are the people feeling in terms of their purchasing power, their livity at the base of the Jamaican society? We know how critical you are in what they have to do because, after all, you're the one sending the barrels, you're the one making the remittances that keep us going. So listen in for Ralston Hyman. Of course, we'll have our New York connection with Beau-regard live from the studios of our sister station, Irie Jam Radio in New York. Please join the Bridge Nation. That conversation, calling our phone line, 876-676-4996. We'd love to hear from you. I forgot a little something. The Minister of Justice, the Honourable Delroy Chuck's going to join us just before midday, is it? Yes? I'm been anxious to speak with him. He's an old friend. You didn't know people on either side of the political fence could be friends? Well, you're going to learn differently. Delroy's a good friend, but Delroy has a problem because the legal system that affects so much in Jamaica's life is an old-fashioned, creaky, I'm going to use one big word, arteriosclerotic system. Yes? It has hardening of the arteries. And if you have a trial for go to and the business start now, it's about 5 years' time you go and finish, you know. Yeah. So we have to ask Delroy, why is that so? How are we going to change it? Remember, we look for solutions on the Bridge. Lots of things happening in JA. Hey, let me get something off my chest. You know, plenty of people are in prison who shouldn't be there. Probably about 20 or 25%. I wonder if my audience knows about 20 or 25% of the prisoners that we lock up and spend, it's over $1 million a year we have to pay to keep a prisoner in the worst circumstances. Yes, a schoolhouse for crime in Jamaican prisons. About a quarter of them are there for less than a year. So why we bother with that? Isn't there some other way that we could correct these people rather than wasting our money and their time? But that's one thing. But here we have now in the press today that one artist who is in prison, he is claiming that he's lost over $100,000 of cash, which they found in his cell. How'd that go? Hey, prison enough of that. And then we have our friend Vibes, who is running a full career, putting out music, having interviews all over the world while in prison. That can go so? That is prison, or is only prison? That is only the rules for certain people. And the minister in charge, trying his best, I'm sure, but he can't trouble anybody. What you find is that the system runs by itself. And therefore, all kind of things take place. Abuses, unauthorized permissions. The system needs to change. System needs to change up entirely. Plenty of people who are there who shouldn't be there, and plenty of people who are there are not getting the right correction so they can come back into the world as different people. So a question I'm asking myself this morning, based on what is in the newspaper today, is our prison system, which we are spending billions of dollars on, is it really serving our purposes? I won't know that. Okay, there's another thing, Hey, Jamaicans, we are spending over $1 billion a year to keep Bellevue Hospital open, And you know that a large proportion of the people there, no mad no more, all they need is an injection or a pill once in a while to keep them stable. They need to go back into their communities. We have people whose families don't care for them. They won't receive them back because perhaps they were in a psychotic state some time ago, and therefore they stay in Bellevue for the rest of their lives. Hospital and mental hospital is not an old age home, and we are wasting money. Plenty of people in many of the hospitals cannot get a bed when they are in acute stage with COVID or other illness, because people are there taking up beds who are not sick anymore but are elderly and need care. Thank God for Father Hulong and the missionaries of charity and the other church agencies that help with the elderly and the homeless. But hey, we have to change up our spirit and our lives, Because if somebody elderly in your family, no matter how them never treat you good, you can't put them out the street or make them say government must care for them. Honor thy father and thy mother is the only commandment of God that has a promise attached to it. So we really have to shift up our thinking and our spirit in respect of that. And we have to look on Bellevue and see it's waste of time there now. So it could be a much smaller place, the money could have used much better. But it depends, on how we deal with those who are weak, those who are compromised in the society. Well, all right, there's another issue now, and that has to do with the Pfizer vaccine, because that is a real problem. The fact is that the Pfizer vaccine run out in Jamaica, and we don't know where we're getting the other supply. Now, the Pfizer vaccine was supposed to be for the children, the 12-year-old children, in order to send them back to school, allow them to go back to school, sufficient level of vaccination. But a whole heap of adults have got the Pfizer vaccine because they said they prefer it to the AstraZeneca. Now, how that work? Yes? Let us try and be intentional in how we do it. Mrs. Holness, the Prime Minister's wife, who is a politician herself, has pointed this out, that we use up the Pfizer vaccine on adults. And so the picnic now, who's supposed to get the second dose, can't go back to school, so some say, because they're not fully vaccinated. So the last stage is no better than the first. How that works. So the Ministry of Health has to give some answers and let us find out when they are really hoping to get the Pfizer vaccine, because they are saying that we're not really sure when that can take place. I don't believe that was rightly handled. Yes? I understand my colleague Bruce Golding was strong on reparations on the bridge on Monday. That's great. speaking with important people like the Vice Chancellor of the University, Sir Hilary Beckles, Lord Gifford, a prominent advocate for reparations, and Bert Samuels, of course, of the same order. That's great. I support entirely the justice of the cause for reparations. But hey, are they clear? Are we clear as to how it is going to be, how that is going to actually happen? And let me just say, while we press for that which justice demands, yes, please make us sure that we don't use that as a distraction, that we feel that somebody owes us something and therefore we can be less concerned with how we are going to make the difference for ourselves right now. Yes, because even if a man owes you something, you know, that no feel your belly today, and you have to go to school. So we have to look at improving the productivity curve in this country. Set back as we are by the history of slavery and colonization and racial and class discrimination, yeah, but still we have to do for ourselves what is going to make the difference right now. That's a key question. It's a controversial one, and I'm sure we're going to need some thoughts and telephone calls and back up on that. I'd love to hear from you. Time for the break. Joining us on the Public Eye today from the Jamaica Teaching Council, Mrs. Allison Solomon, the Senior Director, and a Teacher in Professional Development, Mrs. Ingrid Peart-Wilmot, and she's also Chief Mentoring Officer, Ms. Shirnett Bailey, a Diaspora member, excellent, linking the two communities. She's a JTC, Jamaica Teaching Council stakeholder, and founder and CEO of Sir John Rowe Holdings, business consulting and talent acquisition firm. Welcome to the Public Eye on the Bridge, ladies. Hi, thank you very much. My goodness, listen to the choir of voices. Mrs. Solomon, I want to begin with you. Can you explain to our listeners, please, here and there, what the Jamaica Teaching Council does?
Yes, Ronnie. The Jamaica Teaching Council was established in 2008 as a part of education transformation strategy to improve the quality and coverage of education nationwide. Its main purpose was to professionalize the teaching profession.
Yes.
We're all about advocacy and regulation also.
I wonder if our listeners recognize that the Jamaica Teaching Council is that institution within the education ministry that is the most important one if we're looking to regenerate education in JA, you know, Miss?
Absolutely, Ronnie. And I want to just, go back to last year when COVID-19 came and the Jamaica Teaching Council was in full effect, immediately operationalizing training across for all the teachers in the system, looking at what they needed and giving them the tools to go out there and adapt and be flexible to keep education going.
Well, that's a really prodigious task because the teaching profession has been so really disturbed by COVID. Explain for our listeners, particularly the ones abroad, what it has meant. You've had to train teachers to teach virtually, which is something probably they weren't familiar with before.
Absolutely. Over 20,000 teachers between March and December 2020 were trained in online tools, delivering remote learning. And also for this summer training, we focused on blended learning, teaching in a socially distanced classroom. And we did hybrid teaching also, Ronnie, because, not everybody can get on the virtual space. And so we have to explore all options to reach our students.
Two big questions for you. First of all, are we going to do an evaluation of that effort at some point? Because it seems to me that others have tried it. Other people of other countries are assessing how effective it is. We need to do the same.
Absolutely, Ronnie. We are all about data-driven decision-making at the Jamaica Teaching Council, and we are gathering our data to do so. I do want to point out, though, that data from our NEI, the National Education Inspectorate,
yes,
would have some data on how teachers are using the online tools to reach their students.
And
so there is data available.
Yeah.
Now, as inspection cycles go, we have to use what we get. Right.
Sure.
So there is data out there.
And
I want to say to Ronnie,
Go ahead.
the World Teachers Day theme yesterday teachers at the heart of education recovery. And we have taken that to mean that we are pivotal in moving education recovery. So we had an Irie, Interventions for Recovery in Education, to support the ministry's plans for recovery, but also the psychosocial, the heart. We did psychosocial training with our teachers in a Return to Happiness, which is a Caribbean-based initiative.
Hold on, I need to know more. A return to happiness, that is not an expression, that's not an objective that many people listening to us will think of as present in the school system among teachers or parents or students right now. Return to happiness. What's the plan as we hopefully learn to function within COVID and beyond COVID, Mrs. Solomon?
All right, since I don't have all day, on our JTC YouTube page, there is a seminar we did December 2020 on Return to Happiness, which will give a good background. And I'll give you what we have been doing. First, we had to take care of the teachers, Ronnie. So we had a webinar on psychosocial support services for our teachers. And that was for all stakeholders. And then we know that some people need extra help. And so we had 6-week support groups, small groups for our teachers. This is 6 weeks of meeting. We partnered with the UWI and UNICEF to get Master of Social Work students to facilitate support group sessions for our teachers. And we have done the evaluation on that, and over 98% of the teachers said they have learned resilience skills, coping skills, and that the 6-week support group made a massive difference in their lives. So now, yes, there's a third part, Ronnie.
Tell me.
We're training the teachers now to have the psychosocial conversations, and we're giving them lesson plans to do it. So lesson plans to have the psychosocial conversations with their students.
So then now, let's understand. So our teachers over time are going to really have the capacities to be social workers among their students at a time when most of us yes.
No, Ronnie, teachers are teachers. Teachers have always been at the heart of everything.
Yes.
But but just to have this psychosocial, it's relationship building.
No, it's critical.
We're not replacing counselors. We're not replacing that valuable service that we need more of.
Sure.
But right, our teachers in just building the relationships around how are you doing, how are you managing this rapid change,
yes,
and taking the time to do so instead of just going right into the lesson. Let's do some mindfulness, let's do some centering, let's breathe, right, and let us prepare for learning. And so we're equipping the teachers to do that.
I'm so glad. Many people don't know what work is being done in this regard. They know the need, and we're glad to hear what's underway. Let's turn to Mrs. Peart-Wilmot. Morning, ma'am. Could you please tell us what a what a mentoring officer does in the Jamaica Teaching Council?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. So what the key role is to ensure that all our newly trained teachers are provided with professional mentoring, and that they have support as they transition from being a student to a teacher, and not just support during a period of a few weeks during the program, but at least for the first year that they're in the classroom. We also look at training in-service teachers, excellent teachers, to be mentors, and for these mentors to take on these young teachers and guide them in their first year, providing support, emotional support, resources, etc., so that they can start running and having that sense of I'm not on my own.
What's the extent of the program, Mrs. Peart-Wilmot? Because that's so needed. Will each incoming new teacher, in fact, have someone to whom they can relate? Will it become a kind of buddy system within the teaching profession? That would be so good.
That's a good way to put it. Currently, we are at 61% of our public schools with at least one trained mentor, and currently we are now working with another 400 plus teachers, and we targeted the schools based on our database that do not have trained mentors. Just to say that there are many schools that have informal mentoring program, but what we want is a comprehensive program from the council where we can collect data, where we can look at how we improve the program and just to ensure that no teacher is left behind. That's our mantra from the council. No teacher should be left behind. And so the aim is that currently the virtual space has made it very good for us as it relates to adopting a teacher. So we have a program in place that we put it under the heading of Saga Group, subject alike, grade alike. And so teachers are placed with others who are in service to their area. So if you're a math teacher, you're assigned to a math teacher.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be school.
Build up your skills. Lord, before time runs out, though, tell me about boys' education. I was struck by a statistic given by the Minister of National Security, Mrs. Peart-Wilmot, that as many as 70% of the boys in particular schools drop out and they become attracted to gangs and to criminal behavior. How are we going to save our boys? How are we going to train our teachers and equip them to deal with keeping the boys in school?
All right, good. So let us go do a little history here. So in 2014, Dr. Gordon, this is her brainchild, Dr. Gordon, our Chief Executive Officer, would have initiated the program Advancing the Education of Boys. And after this launch, we have been looking at, how can we build on this? And of course, I want to hasten to say that there's no intention of comparing boys with girls.
No.
But we want to look at the challenge we're having and how we can raise the achievement of boys.
Yes.
And so coming out of this, much work would have been done with stakeholders to get a kind of data set to see where we are. And one of the things that we are seeing as a common trend is that we're teaching our boys the way we teach our girls. And so we're looking at embarking on a series to get, especially our males. We have recently launched a highlighting the males in education website. And what we want to do coming out of our recent launch, as recent as yesterday afternoon, the Mentors Association of Jamaica, headed by our chairman, Mr. Darian Henry, where we are going to be now focusing on getting our male teachers in a space where they can empower us based on how they as males learn to teach us how to teach the male brain and to get our boys so engaged that they want to stay in school. Secondly, we understand the importance of relationship. And these boys are going to be looking to gangs because they want to feel a sense of belonging, where in many cases we know that's a major challenge in Jamaica. And so coming out of this, we have a male mentorship program, and it's not just educators, but other stakeholders. We are calling on men of integrity in Jamaica to join us for the boys mentorship program, become a male mentor. We have over 350 boys who are currently in the program to be placed. And these boys would have been recommended by their principals for them to join a program. And we have currently 118 of our boys who are so placed with other males, not just in Jamaica, but from the Diaspora, etc.
Well, that's
and they have a journal that they're working with as they have the conversation going each week to guide them and to build that relationship.
Let me just give a challenge to those of us who are connected with churches. About half of the schools in Jamaica are sponsored or owned by various churches. And I would have thought that there are men in those churches who ought to be encouraged to join in this mentorship program because, well, you only have about, 8 or 9% of the teaching cohort who are males. But if you can get the help from those people of goodwill who ought to have a great interest in boys' education, that would help to make up the numbers and the transmission, wouldn't you think?
Certainly, and we have gone that route.
Good.
And we are awaiting
Excellent.
response. Yes, so we have sent letters out. We have sent invitation to the Justices of the Peace.
Yes.
We're
good show.
All out because let's save Jamaica one boy at a time.
Yes. Well, listen, this is very encouraging. I certainly didn't know of the depth of this initiative, and that's exactly what we need to do to give us hope at this difficult time. Ms. Shirnett Bailey, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Thwaites. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. But listen, you must be so happy to hear what Mrs. Solomon and Mrs. Peart-Wilmot are saying.
Oh, I'm tickled. I am so excited and so happy. Yeah. I cannot tell you how exciting it was to be asked to be a part of MAJ for that sole purpose.
No, the MAJ is the Mentors Association of Jamaica.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I wanted first of all to say, and I know Mrs. Solomon and Mrs. Peart-Wilmot will agree with me, Jamaicans here and Jamaicans abroad do not fully appreciate the huge extent to which the education system is supported by people in the diaspora. You know, many people live in the diaspora principally because they want to have the resources and the flexibility to help boost education for their children and their friends and families at home. True?
Absolutely true. I totally support that.
Yes. And that to me is a sacred task that we need to understand. It's not just something that happens. It's not something to be taken for granted. And especially in this time, it is critical for us to understand that relationship and to culture it. I guess you're doing that by being a part of the Mentors Association.
Oh, absolutely. And that's just a small part of what the diaspora wants to do. You know, I think that the diaspora is heavily involved in education in Jamaica and would love to be even more involved. I think Jamaicans in the diaspora, we consider ourselves to be a deep well of resources, and we're begging, please tap into it. We want to collaborate with our Jamaican brothers and sisters and further promote Brand Jamaican, of course, it starts with our children and, you know, their education development.
Yes, well, this is critical. Mrs. Solomon, Mrs. Peart-Wilmot, hold hands, hug up these people abroad. Can we talk to them more in forums like this and tell them specific things that they can do? I know the alumni associations are powerful, interested, committed groups. I hear Shirnett Bailey saying let's link even closer so that we can share initiatives. Shirnett, I think you've made the appeal, eh? Are the alumni associations sufficiently grounded, sufficiently active? What more can you ask of the Ministry of the Jamaican Scene to increase diaspora influence?
Sure. Well, I can give you some examples of how we're partnering right now effectively, and they're very open. Let's be clear, across the board, very open and receptive to getting or input, you know. So like, for example, one great example is the Jamaica Alumni Association of Jamaica, UJAM, right? Headquartered in New York.
Yes, know them.
Led by you perhaps know Leslie and Samuel, the president of UJAM. They've been doing a lot. They've conducted virtual Pass the Hat, you know, to support Jamaican students who are stranded in the US because of COVID and their emergency assistance fund. Yeah, they've done a lot in terms of providing money up to, I think it was like $6,450, which allowed them to support 27 students with donations like rent and food and pocket money. And yeah, working as well with the Alaska Chin Foundation, led by Professor Rosalie Hamilton.
No, that's
they were able.
Yes, look at that. That's the kind of partnership we need. That it's not widely known, it may not be advertised, but it's effective, and it is those nuts and bolts things that make the linkage possible and create what we call the margins, the extra that the formal education system of itself, the budget can't manage, you know. Can you turn on your camera for us, Miss Bailey? We'd love to see you. Okay, got you. Hi. So the alumni associations, I think, are a good institution for us to have deeper relations with.
Absolutely, for sure. And there are lots of other organizations and groups within the diaspora who are here to support, and they want to be asked. We've had like Jaminars, which is something that the Jamaica diaspora.
Jaminars, we have our own language, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, we're Jamaicans. We're hosting webinars. Let's call them Jaminars.
Yeah.
That's something that came out. You know, look, when COVID came about, we had plans within various groups within the diaspora, and they all got just stumped. But we did not give up. We decided to take it online, provide programs for the teachers, for the students, reading, whatever we needed to do, we were able to do that with Facebook, YouTube, etc. We had groups that were assisting the Jamaica Teachers Council with the transition from an in-class situation to being online, teaching them about Google Classroom, etc., etc. These are some of the ways that we enjoy helping.
Well, that's again news for us. Mrs. Solomon, are there plans to increase linkage with the diaspora for the benefit of the work of the Teaching Council?
Absolutely, Ronnie. As we go on and we understand more of what we need. You see, Shirnett gave us, as some people wondered how the Jamaica Teaching Council was able to pivot so quickly and be so agile. We have the support of the diaspora, right? And so we are confident moving forward that we are going to offer the kind of support that the teachers need to navigate these pandemic times.
Well, that's great. I think we need to recognize, first of all, the huge reservoir of goodwill and of skills that exist in the diaspora, and we must never let them feel that we less care, or that we are taking them for granted, or we just think of them as money bags. There has to be an integral familial relationship. Do I get an amen from Mrs. Peart-Wilmot?
Hallelujah, and a hallelujah also.
That's good. That's good. But are the structures in place for that? I mean, I know UJA, and what I'm hearing today, which I'm so glad about, is that the Jamaica Teaching Council is seeing this as an important limb of your strength as you await the passage of your legislation and full enablement, eh?
Yes,
that's
definitely. We're in this together, and the reality is that, you know, when we talk about education, we're talking about the economy, because no country can be better than its teachers.
Yes,
and so as you support education from whichever angle, if you want a better Jamaica, then this is a place on which, the foundation on which to build.
And give me some spiritual energy, you see. But I'm going to talk to the Minister of Justice a little later. And one of the questions I'm putting to him as a Member of Parliament is that the Jamaica Teaching Council law must come into effect before the end of the year. It's been in gestation so long it's grown up a white beard. And we need to have you fully enabled to be able to do all of these things. I hope there'll be strong support for that.
Can I put a praise the Lord on that one too?
Yes, and our CEO,
convention. Yes.
Dr. Winsome Gordon,
yes.
That's her baby,
of
and
course.
She is on it, Ronnie.
Yes.
So we appreciate the support for that.
Shirnett,
Ronnie,
go ahead.
I just want to say too, we do have an upcoming webinar series for teachers. Get going with the.
Okay. Wow. Well, look at the effect of the World Teachers Day that we have had. It has provoked this discussion and created a whole lot of encouragement and enthusiasm, which is exactly what we need. Can I make you a promise? I'd love that whenever we can cross the bridge or create the bridge between the diaspora and the Jamaica Teaching Council, just call us. We'd love to have this. Shirnett Bailey, try and get the young Jamaicans, the second and the third generation Caribbean people who may feel a little removed, to remember where their origins are and to find their identity and their purpose in helping the local education system. Can we do that?
Absolutely, and that's something that we're passionate about too, and we are doing that. And I'll give you something a little better, if you will, is we want everyone to feel included, right?
Yes.
So we're looking at programs. When I spoke, I can't say how long ago, Ingrid, you and I were talking about all of this, and we recognized that we needed to have an inclusive arrangement, if you will, when it comes to education. No one should be left behind. So persons who are in the deaf community, persons who are other abled, we had to ensure that we provided that support and partnership for those persons in Jamaica as well. We're working with Stand Up for Jamaica as well to look at prisoners, people who are in the correctional system. You've got some brilliant minds there who quite frankly do not belong there for whatever reason they're there, but we want to provide education for them as well, and we're helping Stand Up for Jamaica to make that happen.
I hear from all of you this morning the hope for the timely build out of a culture of education that is so critical to economy, to social order, to the blessing and the achievement of all that we expect of our country. And that's great news. Mrs. Solomon, Mrs. Peart-Wilmot, make sure you give Dr. Winsome Gordon my love. Ingrid Bailey, please continue all of the work you do. And for all of those in UJA, our fondest greetings and encouragement for support. Thanks so much for celebrating World Teachers Day. A little late, but with us this morning on the bridge. All the best to you.
Thank you. All the best, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good. These are people I really highly regard, you know. Hey, listen, wherever you are, in Jamaica, abroad, no matter where you are, what you're doing, if you can do one thing to encourage your children out to education, however limited the resources are, this is the key. This is the key to the fulfilled life, to the improvement of our country. Yes? So we're always available on the bridge. If the bridge has one theme, if Public Eye has one passion, it is to see education take its rightful place throughout this country. Child, adult, everywhere. Blessings. Soon come. Honorable Delroy Chuck, morning. Happy to have you.
Hi, good morning, Ronnie.
Good. Minister of Justice in all of Jamaica. Delroy, there's a lady listening from New York this morning to this program, and she is a Jamaican. She has saved up her money, taken charge through inheritance of a family home, and she wishes it's in the so-called Golden Triangle. She wishes to do a development which would provide a residence for different members of the family. And it's taken her 5 years to get a covenant removed or covenant modified. And she asked me to ask you, is there anything that we can do to quicken the pace of justice in Jamaica?
Well, Ronnie, you should know that for centuries, justice has never really been a very speedy process. But it is even worse here in Jamaica over many decades. I mean, from the very top, which is something that I've spoken about many times, the delivery of judgments, which I hope will be resolved soon.
Yes, and there's good progress there, isn't there?
Right, significant progress.
With the Court of Appeal.
And I also believe that in the last 3 years or so, we have been trying to reduce the backlog in the parish courts. And now I have to tell you and your listeners that the information is that 90% of the cases in the parish courts have been dealt with within 12 months. But you still have the other 10% that sometimes go beyond two years. And we want to be able to say that in all the parish courts, once a matter goes there, it can be completed certainly within 24 months, and hopefully, as now happens, the majority within 12 months.
Now, is that your standard, 12 months? Because that seems pretty long anyway.
I think the average should be, the average must be on, or should I say the majority as should be under 12 months, but none should go beyond 2 years.
Okay.
You understand? In other words, it may well be that some stretch beyond 12 months, but at 24 months, we're hoping that will be the upper limit in the parish court.
Well, that would be an improvement, even if we need to go even shorter than that, eh?
Yeah, right. I mean, 12 months should be the standard. Yeah?
Sure.
I mean, most of them are summary offences, so they should be dealt with expeditiously.
And is that 12 months for both criminal and civil matters in the parish courts, Delroy? Or are you really talking just about criminal?
We're looking, yes, both. Mm-hmm. Now, I can say that there have been significant improvements in this disposal of probates and divorces. You remember there were problems about years and years.
I do.
And to the best of my knowledge, many of the probates and divorces are now being done within 6 months.
Well, that's great. I just want to invite your help, though, because...
No, I'm coming to this restrictive covenant.
No, I know that, but on the probates, while the process in the courts has certainly improved, you have a terrible problem at the stamp office.
Well,
no, that's not your ministry, but
no,
I have to ask.
but
I have to ask the Minister of Justice to intercede for us, because that can hold you up for a good year and a half. You know, sir.
No, it is not only shocking, because I know my office, legal office,
Yes.
sometimes complain to me about it too.
I can imagine.
So, and many attorneys are complaining that, why on earth you send agreement for sale or probate down to the stamp office.
Yeah.
They have to go and do assessment of properties. And, what is really disturbing is it appears that they're doing more than is necessary.
Yes.
The truth of the matter, Ronnie, and I say it publicly,
Yes.
a lot of them, when they go out to go and they get traveling allowance, or they get honorarium to go and check every property.
Yeah.
And I think you see that the supervisor down there or the minister, I will speak to him, must say you take a sample.
Yeah.
Or, you don't have to go and visit every house.
This is money we want to pay to the government, Minister.
And since the transfer tax and the estate duty have been reduced over the last 2 years, it has taken 10 times longer to get the things out of the stamp office.
Look at that. And so many of the people listening to us in the diaspora, they want to invest, Minister. They want to see their business done here in a way that they can be proud of, rather than something that may have all the opportunities, but at the same time gets tied up.
Well, you see, that is why I see, Ronnie, we need to have some time standards.
Yeah.
And one of the, I will speak to Minister Clark, to speak to Commissioner. I will speak to Commissioner Powell too, to let him know that when matters come to the stamp office, within 1 month, the assessment should be done.
Sure.
At the moment, sometimes you're going 4-6 months.
Well,
it's not fair to people who want to do business,
Please be our advocate, sir.
No, I will speak to Commissioner
really important.
Powell. Right. There should be some time standard. And after 1 month, if it is not in, the stamp office must accept whatever the figure is.
Indeed. Tell me about the Supreme Court.
No, the restrictive covenant.
Yes,
my understanding, though, I cannot understand why it has taken her 5 years. Because to the best of my knowledge, restrictive covenants have been completed within months over the past few years.
There may be an objection, but even then one would want it resolved in a much shorter time, eh?
Right. So I would be very concerned if you get the number, the RC number, Ronnie, and I would ask she could
be
email
checked
me.
Upon. Yes, okay.
She could email me.
Now, look at that. A Minister of Government is saying that if a person who has a complaint, a concern, they can get in touch with your office personally, and you will try and see what can be done. No, that's good service. We love that.
My email is delroy.chuck at moj.gov.jm.
Excellent.
I do get a lot of.
I'm congratulating you on being open to that kind of contact. Because
the problem though, Ronnie, having given that number, and people get in touch with me for sometimes irrelevant things, where they feel at justice. If they don't have food, they don't have justice. So what am I doing?
Listen,
to get them some resources.
You bear your cross on that, Minister. Tell me something now. The in terms of delays, civil matters in the Supreme Court, Minister, are really clogged up. Why don't we have more judges? I know you have better courtrooms.
Ronnie, it's not going to be possible. If you get 200 judges, we will still have that difficulty.
Really? Why?
The truth of the matter, Ronnie, is that as a country, we are too litigious. I think it's more important that the vast majority of matters should go to mediation. Now, regrettably, mediation has not really taken off in Jamaica. But in most countries, I would say more than 50% of matters, even when they go to court, are actually dealt with by mediation. Now, when you go to other countries, most of the courts have rooms for mediation, where oftentimes the judge literally say, we have reached a point where it seems that you people can just sit down with a mediator and see if you can get to a consent judgment. Yeah. But what is happening, Ronnie, is that for the simplest of matters, we take matters to court, and having taken it to court, you want a judge to decide. Now, in all sincerity, I have said to people, mediation is a better process because at the end of it, hopefully you come to a conclusion, and it is a win-win situation. While once a judge decides, it's really a lose-lose situation. And I say it is a lose-lose situation because by the time it is tried, both parties would have lost significantly.
And wasted time.
And waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
The only people who benefit from dragging out the case, with due respect to you and me, Ronnie, are the attorneys.
Yeah.
Because they have to be paid every time it goes to court. And I've encouraged attorneys, encourage your clients to look at mediation. Now, I am in touch with the Dispute Resolution Foundation. They, too, must be more proactive. They, too, must be able to identify perhaps retired judges, senior attorneys, who can really take on some of the more complex cases. But at the moment, people just see it as a part of the process rather than the end in itself, mediation.
So it's a culture change then. I think you're right in that.
We need a total culture change, Ronnie.
Sure.
I'm trying to get it even at the parish court level.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems at the parish court level is that parties can't afford mediation, and I'm going to be approaching Cabinet to see if we can pay some of these mediators from the legal aid fund.
Well, that'd be good, because then you would ease the clutter in the courts, and people would feel a much greater satisfaction.
So to respond to your question directly, Ronnie, matters are now being put 5 years' time,
Yes.
2026 and 2027.
Terrible.
Is it in the interest of the parties to wait 5 or 6 years?
No.
No, it cannot be, and that is why I'm saying the parties need to really approach a mediator, approach one another to see how these matters can be settled.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, the burden on the court system is enormous. And these matters are, as I say, Ronnie, even if we increase the number of judges in the past 10 years, certainly in the past 10 years, from about 26 to 42. You get me?
Yes.
And the question arises, if you increase them to 84, is it going to solve the problem? I don't think so, Ronnie, because the number of matters that are before the courts, the Chief Justice is going for a trial date certainty. This is why not many cases are being put during in a particular time, and that is why it is stretching out to 2026 and 2027.
Yeah.
So
you're probably going to need both, Minister, but I understand the need for an attitude of willingness to settle, and if they can be nudged that way by some official, it will add weight to the change and add purpose to the change of culture,
Sure.
There's one other thing before time runs out on us, please. The legislative calendar. I've just had an excellent interview for World Teachers Day yesterday with the Jamaica Teaching Council. Now,
Ronnie, that is going on right now.
Well, it's on the table.
In other words, the bill is before me as chairman of Teaching Council. In fact, I have another minister chairing the meeting while I come to speak to you.
Well, no, that is that. Whoa! You see what radio can do. You see what that's.
This is over 10 years now,
You're telling me?
Bill.
Yes.
And by the way, we have been going through it for the past 4 weeks. Every week we do certain sections because
this is a legislative committee.
Yes, and we're hoping it will be tabled fairly soon. Okay. Yeah. Because I was hoping we can sign off today. But if we don't sign off today, we might sign off next week.
Give us a sentence. So why laws take such a long time to pass,
Ronnie.
man? Surely we can train some more drafting councils.
No, Ronnie, that's not the problem. I think the problem is coordination. And I have a submission sent into Cabinet shortly. It's being looked at by ministries, where we need a filter coordinating body, which I'm saying should be the Law Reform Department.
Yeah.
So that all ministries that have legislation to be drafted or amendment to be made, they direct it to the Law Reform Department that would then deal with the Attorney General's chambers and the Office of Parliamentary Counsel that does the drafting. And at the moment, Ronnie, all the ministries are dealing directly with the AG chambers or with the CPC. And before you know it, I've been checking. Oftentimes, half of the matters are back in the ministries or at the Attorney General's chambers. Very few, are at the CPC.
Yeah.
The CPC, deal with them are usually send back in for asking for better drafts and instructions. Now, if we have a filter on it, like the law reform, when a draft and instructions come to the law reform can say your policy directions are not clear. Your draft and instructions need, better formulation, so that the law reform department can filter the draft and instructions before it goes to CPC. A lot of time is wasted, Ronnie, because of poor draft and instructions to the CPC.
Well, if whatever you can do, I'm laying hands on you, Delroy. If you, that's your legacy, big man. If you can help to streamline so that we get our laws up to date, so that we can be the modern, comfortable, law-abiding society, that would be a wonderful advantage,
Ronnie, one of my greatest disappointment is that in the public sector, nothing seems to move. I mean, it's a challenge to get things moving.
Well, that's a big issue, and it's a big issue for successive governments, I can tell you.
No, because to get anything done, Ronnie, you literally have to personally be involved to get it done.
You're telling me?
You cannot leave it and expect that in a day or a month it will come back done. If you don't follow it 24/7, it will never be done.
Two things before, as you go, Minister. One is please be our advocate for changes in the stamp office, and two, go back to the Jamaica Teaching Council bill now, because the education system really needs it. Thank you so much for this interview.
All the best to you.
All the best to you. The Honourable Delroy Chuck, Queen's Counsel and Minister of Justice. Happy to have this interview. Hey, we talk to anybody who can move things in Jamaica, Yes, that's what we're after. You have a caller for me? Hello, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Sir Ronnie.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Well, fine. I'm elated by the interviews with the Teaching Council and now with Minister Chuck. That's the kind of progressive discussion we want. I hope you agree.
I was about to commend you on those two discussions. Excellent and incisive discussions. Thank you so much, Ronnie.
Thank you, too.
I would like to discuss with you briefly the People's National Party. I'm certain that your listeners here and abroad is concerned about the opposition party. I am very concerned about the current state of the People's National Party, but let me state categorically here that I firmly believe that Mr. Mark Golding is the most qualified, competent and appropriate person to lead the party at this time. However, I think it is very unfortunate that some persons within the party are hell-bent on causing disunity, chaos, and a plethora of problems in the party in order, from my perspective, to surreptitiously sabotage Mark Golding, who is the current PNP president. I see where the party recently expelled one of its members, Karen Cross, which from my viewpoint is commendable. Based on her public actions and conduct, the party had no other choice but to expel her. I heard a prominent People's National Party member.
1 second, caller. Just let me tell people the time. It's 12 o'clock, 12 noon in Jamaica. Go ahead, please. You heard someone?
Thank you, Ronnie. I heard a prominent People's National Party NEC member, Mr. Bonnie Witter, yesterday stating that he fully supported Peter Phillips and Lisa Hanna. However, it is prime time that the party unites around Mark Golding, get its act together.
That's Bonnie Witter saying that?
Yes, and realize that it is one PNP president at a time.
Yeah.
Now, the fact of the matter is, Ronnie, and you're a prominent and senior member of the party, asset to the party. Now, apart from the shadow cabinet spokespersons, Pete Bunting, Dr. Angela Bromberg, Philip Paulwell, Julian Robinson, and Donna Scott Motley, I am not hearing at all the other members from the shadow cabinet. They seem to be in a comatose state, it would seem. And it is unacceptable, to put it bluntly. It is very important, Ronnie, that Jamaica has a vibrant, effective, efficient, forward-thinking, vocal and responsible opposition party and government in waiting. And it is important as well for Mark Golding to get the right team around him, for him to be properly politically packaged and marketed to the Jamaican people, for the citizens of this country to hear from him and the leadership. What does the PNP represent under a Mark Golding leadership? What are its core philosophies and values at this time? And what is the vision that the PNP has moving forward under a Mark Golding? It is very distressing for me as a citizen to see the current state of disunity within the party. Couldn't you assist Ronnie to assist to unite the party?
I'm willing to do anything that I can in that regard, and need only to be asked. Although I'm retired from active representation, the question I have for you though is, and by extension to all those who defend constitutional government and people of goodwill in the country, the People's National Party has to come forward with a set of programs and principles and programs that shows its distinctiveness from that which is being put forward by the Jamaica Labour Party. Right now, many people cannot see, and I think it is the absence of a clearly defined purpose that allows personalism to take front page, and people see their own fortunes and their own careers as being more important than the national interest. And this is something that is affecting the PNP, but it's also, I suggest to you, a real national problem, because the political culture is not what we need it to be to really move forward. It's going to be hard, just a final sentence, because in my view, the prospects of any one political party, however distinct from any other, making real change in this country is very slim. This country needs far more consensus and far more joint action than it has had before. And I say that having been deeply involved and still involved with one particular party, I'm prepared to work along with the JLP as a PNP man.
Yes.
Now, if for some people that is anathema, either both in the JLP and in the PNP. Yes. I've been getting feedback that here I have Colonel Charles and Delroy Chuck, and I ride side saddle on the bridge with Bruce Golding. But of course, why not? We're Jamaicans first and foremost.
Yes.
Yes.
That issue of the country being highly partisan, and that
is that serving us well?
It's not serving us well, because
exactly.
If one is a member of the JLP, you're not expected to commend the PNP.
No.
If you're a member of the PNP, you're not expected to commend the JLP whenever they do well.
So what kind of foolishness is that now? What you do is to exclude from the limited pool of talent some of the history and the contribution that others can make. I'm done with that, caller.
There needs to be change, Ronnie, and I've not heard anything from the People's National Party and the current president in terms of constitutional reform.
Yeah, okay.
That's very important.
Very important.
To move the country forward.
Listen.
Just in closing,
go ahead.
Ronnie, the Bail Act.
Mm-hmm.
I heard Minister Chang stating that he is hoping for the Bail Act to be amended to take away some discretionary powers from the
judges. No.
And that, according to Minister Chang, extrapolating from his comments in recent times, that he's not satisfied that the Bail Act is serving its purpose, and many of those persons who have been granted bail are committing crime, are committing murder.
What's your feeling?
That's not my information, Ronnie. As far as I'm concerned, I've read the Bail Act. I've discussed it with lawyers and police officers. the Bail Act is an excellent piece of legislation.
Yes.
When a person is granted bail, before the person is granted bail, it has to do with if that person should not be granted bail. In the police judgment, it is the police's responsibility to provide the information to the judge so the judge could weigh whether or not that person should be granted bail. But I'm alarmed at the fact that the Bail Act is working so well, and Minister Chang seems to be in a position to want to be.
I have a favor to ask you. Next time we talk, please let's discuss this in more detail. It's very, very important. Human liberty and the suppression of crime are both concerns. Thanks for the call today.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Keep up the excellent work.
Thanks very much. This is The Public Eye on the Bridge. We'll soon come back.